Okay, Chapter 10, we're going to look at questions 5, 7, and 9. But before we do that, we have to understand this concept of selecting a sample. So we understand we've got a population, which is the larger group. From that, we will select a sample. But how we select that sample is of importance, because if we don't do it correctly, we will have what's called sampling bias, and it means that we won't have a study that we will be able to reply back to that population. So one of the methods that is oftentimes used is to do what's called a random sample. Somehow people are assigned numbers possibly, and a computer runs it, chooses some numbers, and the people associated with those numbers are then asked to be in the sample. A simple random sample is one in which every member of the population has an equal opportunity to be chosen, equal probability. There's also a way of doing a stratified sample. This is when you divide it into smaller groups and then you sample each of the individual groups. This is helpful if you are doing a study maybe to see differences between men and women. You would stratify them into groups of female and male, and from those groups you would choose a similar size sample. Or maybe age-based, so you might have teenagers, 20-somethings, 30-somethings. You might have it broken down by age, and you sample within each age strata. So we'll take a look at some of those. A systematic sample is oftentimes used in production work, where every third item is checked, or every fifth item. Sometimes you'll see this being done with surveyors. They are actually counting passersby, and they go ask maybe like every 9th person if they would be willing to take that survey. A cluster sampling is that there is already a population divided into subgroups. These are clusters, and then from those subgroups you select your sample. So this might be like a school that's divided into classes. Those are clusters, and you could use those classes as your sampling technique. Convenient sampling is doing what is easy. So maybe you are at a grocery store and you just want to start asking people at the grocery store. Sometimes you get a sample that is worthwhile, sometimes not. And finally, there is voluntary response sampling, which is allowing people to choose whether they want to be part of the sample or not. And this is what is used primarily through the internet. There's a question out there, and whoever answers it, they become a volunteer sample. Okay, so let's see how this applies to a few other questions. So question 5 here, we're asked to choose what was the sampling method. So in a study, the sample is chosen by separating cars by size. So we have this population or this group of cars. We make small cars, medium cars, large cars, and then we select 10 from each of these groupings. Well, what we've done in moving them by size is we stratified the cars, and so the subgroups are selected from there. This is number 5 is stratified. Sampling. For question 7, suppose a researcher conducted a study by randomly choosing one state in the nation and then randomly picking 100 patients from that state. What sampling method would the researcher have used? The key part here is random. And the fact that everyone in the United States really does have a choice or a possibility of being in the sample because he randomly chose a state. So it was initially open to all 50 states. Randomly, one state was chosen. And then from within there, all the people in that state had the opportunity. So we could call this a simple random sample. And finally, question 9, we're given a multiple choice option, so it makes it a little easier. The instructor takes her sample by gathering data on 5 randomly selected students from each of Lake Tahoe Community College. could it be cluster sampling? Since they are actually at different colleges, they're probably wanting to see if there's some differences between the colleges. I would say that this one is a stratified sample. Now, if she had looked at the classes within a college, I might then lean towards calling it a cluster sample. But this time I'm going to go with a stratified sample.